Welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Burundi, we are a little bit light on news for this episode. We don't got a ton going on right now. People are gearing up for the Olympic break. Teams are looking to play it a little more safe at the moment. But we'll just jump in with some of the news right here off the top. William Nylander fined $5,000 for giving the middle finger to the camera during TV broadcast. I'm going to ask you first. What are your thoughts on it?
I have a mixed, I think some mixed opinions about this.
Okay.
Trying to think of the best way to word this. I mean, would I have fined him $5,000 for this? No, but I also do understand it. I understand where the league is coming from in doing this, right? Like for me personally, I didn't care. Like it didn't affect me. I kind of thought it was funny. Why did he do it? I don't really know. I don't really understand why he did. But
yeah,
to me, I mean, I thought it was
because it was funny. I assume.
Yeah, I thought it was. I thought it was funny. And I get, some people didn't like it. To the people that are claiming they were offended by it, I don't really see their point of view. Like, I don't see how that's offensive. Like, it's not like Nylander was doing it to them.
They should
exclusively
stop watching. If that's going to offend them, they shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's crazy to say because it's not an R-rated movie, but you are officially not hardened enough as a person to watch an NHL broadcast. If that's
if you're offended by this, but what game was it earlier or over the weekend where there was just a big, fuck that was dropped in the middle of the game that was caught on one of the
Nashville
mics.
Versus somebody.
Yeah, one of the Nashville games, and
clear as day.
There was no, and I mean you can't find someone for that because like it's not the player's fault it got picked up on the mic, but people weren't offended by that. But people are saying so. I don't really get that. But at the end of the day, I think a fine is necessary. Again, what did I fine him for? No, but it's the same as where, you get a job somewhere, right? And they give you company vehicle with the name of the company and everything slapped on the side. If you're driving around and cutting people off and rolling down the window and swearing at them and shit like that, it's a bad look on the company. You're representing the company.
Yeah. And
Nylander is a representative of the Maple Leafs,
right.
One of the biggest franchises in the NHL. If you want to call it the biggest, sure.
I'd probably call it the biggest, yeah.
So I get it. Even when you're not playing the game, you're still representing that franchise. You're still representing that logo and the owners and the GMs, the coaches, like all of that. Yeah. The fan base you're even representing to a degree. So I totally understand it. Again, I wouldn't have fined him. I personally thought it was funny. I totally agree with you. If people got offended by it, just stop watching. Go.
There's no way
go do anything else then if this rubbed you the wrong way. Because again, it was meant to be funny. The league didn't quite see it that way, and I think the fine is justified. But
if you're that upset and disturbed by a guy flipping off the camera while smiling, he's having a good time. Everyone's just hanging out. It's not an aggressive one, right? If that's that bad to you, how are you going to react when like bad boarding happens or something? Like something that actually matters, like physical violence. Like I hate that he got fined here. I do understand why, for a lot of the reasons you were saying. You put it really well. But yeah, like just the other day in that Nashville game, the guy just yells "fuck" so loud and clear. Like, if they were doing subtitles, it would have it was clear enough. It would have said the F word in subtitles. Like it was crystal clear. And like, guys are getting hit, and even if you take away the dirty hits, just big clean hits, that's violent, right?
Yeah.
Like this isn't a product for 4-year-olds and under. This isn't Wonder Pets. This isn't Dora, right? Like, I'm not saying it's nasty and it should be 13 plus or nothing, but like the middle finger, really? Are we that far back. Like I was thrown back because earlier tonight I was watching the Lightning Mammoth game, and two guys get into a fight. I think it's Ian Cole and I think Nick Paul. Those two got into a fight, and afterwards they come back from commercial break. They show Cole in the penalty box, and he's standing up yelling at Paul, and you can read his lips so easily. And he
Wasn't it
just
Sean? I
goes,
thought it was Sean Dersey, wasn't it?
and he just yells, "You fucking pussy!" And it's like, there's nothing else on
You
the
don't
screen.
need
The
a
whole
lip
reason,
reader for
yeah,
that,
the
right?
whole
Like you could
reason they
easily
showed
tell.
it is to read his lips. There was nothing else going on. So they very purposefully put that on the screen. They
Yeah.
actively wanted us to see that. So like, so it's not like they're afraid of that kind of thing. It's just, it's one of those things where they clearly are they pick and choose their moments, and at the
Mhm.
end of the day, like, if a little kid sees that, it, what does the league really care if he parrots that? Because my biggest takeaway is there's two things that could happen. Both I think would. They might parrot it at school or something. But the other thing is they think William Nylander is a badass. That kid wants a Nylander jersey for Christmas or his birthday.
Yeah.
Like he's probably thinking that's cool. Like Stone Cold was one of the most popular people in the world because he'd go drink a beer and flip off the crowd, and people lost their minds. Like,
Mhm.
it's fun.
No,
It's kind of fun.
I totally agree, and it's you know the people that are offended, like people are like, I can't believe my child had to watch it. It's like, yeah, but then after the game they probably went and hopped on Fortnite and are screaming about killing people. Like,
You know what's
you know
worse,
it's
that or the gambling ads? We're
yeah,
bombarded with
yeah,
gambling ads. Like, are you kidding me?
yeah, fair,
That's
yeah.
okay. And all the ads for all the different shots that are supposed to make you skinny. Like all these other things, all the crypto ads, like there's so much more predatory stuff going on than a guy who casually flips the bird at the camera, right? So it's like,
Yeah. Overall, I think the hardest part of all this for me, the hardest watch, is the fact that the gears are clearly turning in Nylander's head. He's like, I'm going to do this. And he kind of leans over to get the attention of the boys because it's all the,
yeah,
all the healthy scratches and other guys that are injured up there.
yeah, there's three other
Very
dudes with
clearly
them.
kind of letting them know, like, get ready, watch this. He does it. None of them cared. None of them smiled. None of them laughed. And it's one of those
Yeah,
instances where you've got this great joke lined up. You're ready to deliver it. You're getting all pumped up. You finally drop it, and it's just crickets. And then it's like, oh man.
yeah,
Then you just feel like a total loser for the rest of the night. And then you
yeah.
go home, cry yourself to sleep. You know, drink a couple beers in the shower. So it was kind of like that. I was just like, man, like his
Yeah.
teammates just did not give a
Just
shit.
no sold him, man. It was funny. So
Yeah,
it's too bad
I
he
thought it
got
was
fined.
funny,
He's
but
obviously fine for it. Nylander doesn't feel that one bit, but you know, it's one of those things where like that it would just be fun, frankly. Like, it's too
yeah,
bad every time because like this isn't the first time we've seen this, right? Like guys on the ice have flipped people off or flipped off the
yeah.
crowd, and they've got fined, and I don't think suspended before, but maybe a small suspension in the past, but like, it's one of those things where who's it really hurting?
Yeah,
Like,
that's my biggest thing from it is I again,
and
if you were
yeah,
offended by it, just go watch
God,
something else. Just go watch anything else and carry on.
yeah.
That's
But
all I can really say.
yeah, I think that's pretty much all we could really say on the matter. Nothing more from there. Uh, Vancouver continuing the teardown as the team is given permission to Evander Kane and his agent to seek a trade with other teams. Uh, I'm just gonna ask you straight up, where do you think are, if you have one, two, or three main areas, where do you think which team do you think he's gonna go to?
Um, so I've heard that teams that are interested in Evander Kane is Colorado and Dallas.
Right.
Two places that I think would honestly be good landing spots for Evander Kane and could use a guy like him. That being said, for Dallas, I would rather see them go down the road of targeting a defenseman,
Yeah.
specifically a right-handed defenseman, before they go after an Evander Kane. If they can go out and they can get a good second pairing right-handed defenseman, and then if you can make a trade work for Kane, absolutely go for it. But again, for Dallas, I'd like to see the blue line tightened up a
Yeah.
bit there. Colorado's an interesting one. Again, when I'm looking at Colorado, I'm like, everything's going kind of the right way for them, except for that, shit stomping by the Flyers of all teams. It almost just makes me kind of wonder, like, again, would he be a good fit on ice for the team? Yes. But at the same time, they're already the top team in the league. The vibes are so good there.
It's just an unforced error
And
waiting to
again,
happen.
there's
it feels like.
there's the stuff in the past about Evander Kane and whatnot. I'm not going to go on that, but I just don't think it's worth the risk. Again, I'm not saying Evander Kane's, gonna go in there. If he goes to Colorado, is gonna be a bad dude. I've heard a bunch of great stuff from his time in Edmonton, in Vancouver. But again, for Colorado, I just don't think it's worth the risk of what could potentially go wrong with acquiring a guy like Evander Kane. Because again, he could go there, could be, damn near a goal per game with that team and his skill. But it's just, again, do you run that risk?
Yeah.
I don't know if I would if I was
it's kind
Colorado,
of a move
but
for
again,
a desperate team. Like, it's what desperate teams would do, and the Avs have a cup in this window already, so they're not as desperate as the teams looking for that first one, and they are also top of the league, so they're not desperate for offense right now. So it's one of those things where I could see it, but it just feels like they could target a better player, whether that's actually a better player or a better fit.
Yeah, and also with Colorado, right? You look at their team, and I mean, goaltending, you don't need to worry about. Defense, you don't need to worry about. So it really comes down to your forwards, and they've already got a good group. So if you're Colorado, you're already top team in the league, you're probably only making one move to improve your team, and that's somewhere in terms of your forwards. So do you really want your one move to be Evander Kane? Maybe, if that's what it comes down to, but I think there's better fits out there for Colorado, because again, they probably only make one move to improve this team, because again, how much can you really improve this team and what they're doing? A team that, so again, kind of what you said, a team that's kind of a bubble team, where it's, I think, low risk, high reward, because you probably don't have to give up a whole lot for Kane. Yeah. And you are getting a guy that brings a lot of energy, physicality, goal scoring, like all that type of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I don't hate the Flyers poking around there. I don't hate the Flyers looking at.
He certainly Kane plays like a Flyer. It's hard to say, because that locker room is also kind of not in the best spot. It was rocky with Tortorella there, and then they've got whoever's in there now.
Rick Tocchet. But the thing is it really that bad? All it is people just aren't happy that Michkov's not playing 20 minutes a night.
He's also got him playing on his off wing. He's always been a right winger, and then he made him a left winger for some reason, and he's kind of been struggling since that change. And, I remember seeing an interview recently where Michkov was like, basically saying, like, I'll do what. It was very similar to what he would say with Tortorella, except with Tortorella, he was always like, he's a hard coach, but he's a good coach. He knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And then it was kind of like he would say a lot of the same things about Tocchet, but then just say he's a hard coach and just kind of stop. He won't say the same thing. He won't have his back the same way that he had towards back.
Because Tocchet's whole thing is, Tocchet's thing is be good in your own end, and then everything's going to work offensively. Because if we're not stuck in our own end, we're just going to be in the offensive zone if we can break it out easily. And
right,
I think it's maybe he's having trouble getting Michkov to buy into it. Maybe moving him to the other wing is to help him in the defensive zone, and then it's like once you get that shit figured out, you're going to be in the offensive zone, and then it's money, right?
Yeah.
With his talent. So I don't necessarily think their locker room is in a bad spot. I think it's just a lot of the stuff between Talkett and Michkov is kind of being blown out of proportion, I think, a bit.
Yeah, maybe.
But again, I'm not in that locker room, and I'm not the biggest Flyers fan, so I don't follow everything super in depth as I know. But
Dropped camera there for a sec.
Yeah, don't you worry. I will be back. I'm still here though.
Okay.
I don't know. What would you have be a destination for Kane?
I don't hate the Dallas Stars. I think the Stars could be a decent landing spot for him. Hey, there we go. But as you said, I do think they would need to target a defenseman first. So it kind of depends if they can make the money work getting a defenseman and getting Kane as well. Yeah. I would say Carolina, but they're not.
They need to be big game hunters.
They're looking for the big guy. They're not looking to grab these smaller pieces. So yeah, you know what? I could see a team like Pittsburgh, but for a lot of the same reasons as Philly, where I do think there's a very good chance it could work out in Philly as well. He seems like a good type of player to bring in on a young team that's looking to make that playoff push.
Mm-hmm.
So something like that could definitely work.
I don't know if it's possible, if it can work, because I got to see how many years does Kane have left.
Was it a 1-year deal?
He's on the last year of his deal, so Vancouver probably going to retain 50%, get the most value out of it,
as they should.
People aren't going to like it, but I could see Florida being in the mix.
That was kind of my thought too.
I could see Florida potentially being in the mix to.
I mean, he's such a Florida Panthers player, right? But
yeah,
I don't know. I guess for similar reasons to Colorado, I don't think they're a team that's desperate enough to need to buy on a guy because he's got lower value like that. Like, I even though they're not in the playoffs at the moment, I think they're not worried about getting the playoffs yet.
Yeah, but Florida's always looking to buy because again, like the picks and prospects don't matter for them. They're trying to just win as many cups as they can this window. Because again, you look at and if you're rolling out a team that's got Matthew Tkachuk, Brad Marchand, Sam Bennett, Evander Kane, it's like holy fuck, that's a team that would just suck to play against.
It'd be a nightmare. I could definitely see it happening, but yeah, it just feels like they're not desperate. It feels like they would go after a bigger fish. It feels like they would.
See, so I normally would say that, but then I'm also like, they don't have a whole lot at this point now. They're kind of in a similar spot to Vegas where they've used up most of what they got.
What about again,
it is Florida, so
like I could see them going after a guy like Vinny Trocheck, and I think he's actually been in the org before, and a Mackie Samoskevich and a couple picks. It's an upgrade for their team right now.
You don't really need Trocheck, right?
But he makes them better.
I guess without Barkov right now.
And he's a higher up he'd be a center higher up without Barkov.
But when you have Barkov back, then you have Barkov, Bennett, Trocheck, and Lundell.
I think Bennett would go to the wing. A center core
could do that.
Probably Trocheck on depending how he plays second or third line. And then having Lundell and Barkov, that's filthy.
Yeah, no, that's true. And Trocheck is on a good contract.
He's a good player, but he also hits a lot, which obviously just fits their MO. Something I could definitely see. But it is at least an interesting one because there's a lot of places that Kane could go. Like,
yeah,
as much as the locker room stuff might be there, we haven't heard a ton lately. A guy who hits a lot and scores, very similar to Kiefer Sherwood. There's not a lot of teams that don't want that.
yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. So, something to keep an eye on with Vancouver's again. They're going to continue to sell off a bunch of guys as they continue to tank and stay being the bottom team in the league. What's the gap now? They're last in the league by 8 points. So,
that's crazy.
They're in a pretty good spot to have the best odds at the first overall pick, and that's exactly where they want to be. So, absolutely, just keep doing your thing, Vancouver. Just keep blowing it up and just slowly start to build yourselves back up over the next couple of years.
Yeah. Speaking of Kiefer Sherwood, I guess do you want to talk about a little update we got on him?
Yeah. So yeah, Kiefer Sherwood now on the San Jose Sharks is hoping to play on the team's upcoming road trip. Hopefully, he's hoping to play tomorrow. So on Tuesday, as San Jose is back in Vancouver. So that'd be Kiefer Sherwood's first game for the Sharks, and it would be against his former team. Again, don't know for sure if he's going to play or not. Don't really know what his injury is, something hand related. Might play, might not, but definitely hoping that he'll be able to play at some point on this upcoming road trip, because that would kind of suck to trade for him, and then you don't get a game out of him in the first month with the whole Olympic break and everything. Yeah. So the Sharks are hoping to get him into the lineup, and
it might be good to just let him. Like if he'd only be getting in 1 or 2 games before the Olympics, it's like at that point maybe it's worth just resting him, and then he's got the extra like 2-3 weeks to rest, and it's like now we know he's coming back fully ready.
But... And it is interesting because the Sharks still have a couple players, I think about 3 or 4 players right now that are on their IR and are close to coming off. And again, that's going to put them at the contract limit. They've already sent a couple guys that that didn't have to go with their waivers down. So if a few of these guys do play in the upcoming road trip, there probably will be a trade or two of the Sharks trading out a couple of players. I think Jeff Skinner's probably one, so something to keep an eye on there. But with Kiefer Sherwood, the extension talks don't sound like they're very positive right now, as both the team and the player are still pretty far apart on what an extension would look like.
Is that as far as that goes, or is there like, do we know if one side's looking for long term, short term? Is it money?
So basically all that I know, and I think mostly of all what's been put out there, is Kiefer Sherwood and his agent are looking for $30 million. So whether that's a 6-year deal at $5 million per year, or 5-year deal at $6 million per year, that's kind of where they're at right now. And I don't think the Sharks want to go that long on a deal. Like I think they're kind of fine with the $5 million per year, but they don't like the idea of a 6-year commitment. It's kind of been their biggest thing throughout the rebuild is they're not dishing out any long-term contracts.
They're going to lock down Celebrini, and then they're going to start putting out long-term things because they'll know what their cap structure will look like in the future.
Right? Yeah, and that's exactly it. So again, nothing to report on it other than that. Just team, they're far apart on it. I was very pro this trade for the Sharks from the beginning, and I still am. But I don't hate the idea of if you have to flip Sherwood at the deadline, if that's what it comes to, I do it. You're going to get the value back at least that you gave up, if not more, because you have the ability to, retain. And if a team's looking at getting Kiefer Sherwood at like $750,000 for a playoff run, that's very good value.
Because the Canucks didn't retain on him, right?
Nope.
Right, because the Sharks don't care about cap space. They're totally fine. And Vancouver probably wants those retention slots for guys like Evander, Kane.
Yeah. And for the Sharks, it's nice because if Vancouver did retain, the Sharks wouldn't have the option to retain on his contract.
Yeah.
So now it's a little bit more of a bonus for the Sharks if they do a move. It's like, hey, now we're going to retain. And then again, yeah, $750K for a couple months in a playoff run of a guy like Kiefer, sure, the way he plays.
Yeah. Now everyone
be
listening, they're
return.
hoping their team's in on that. Like that'd be a real nice addition to any team. Under 1 mil, like that'd be incredible.
They'd be getting lots of phone calls, absolutely.
I'm very interested to see what the contract, if he extends in San Jose, and I think he probably will, ends up looking like, because honestly, I thought the number was going to be higher, even if you increase the years. But how does $32 million sound to him, do you think? Because that's what an 8x4 would look like. Obviously, that's a lot longer than the Sharks would want to go. But if you're only committing 8 in a rising cap, or 4 mil per season, you know,
It's not
that's pretty hard to end up being a bad contract. Like, he's going to have to really regress and age out quickly for that to look bad. Like, that's Trent Frederick money. That's Tanner Jeannot money for Kiefer Sherwood. If he was willing to take it.
The idea of that. And again, I don't blame Sherwood and his agent for trying to get, this is a guy that had to scrap and claw his way all the way through every league imaginable to get to the NHL and has made the most of it. I don't blame them one bit for trying to get as much money as possible. 100%. But at the same time, you also got to be careful that they're not too firm on it, because we have seen guys that have done that and then have wound up making a lot less.
Yeah. Yeah, John Klingberg on the Sharks having a great season, but he could have been making $64 million and 8x8.
And he'd still be on a great Dallas Stars team. Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely. So
that's their one hole, to keep the right side.
An eye on. Yeah, they haven't been able to fill that spot since Klingberg left, and
they might already have a cup.
Again, that's the one thing for Dallas, is to definitely go for that. But we've been talking about trades here a lot. We do have a trade. Last bit of news we actually got before we start to wrap up, because again, it's not a very long episode because we don't have a lot going on around the league, and Friday's episode is pretty long, and I imagine by Friday this upcoming week we'll probably have a bunch of news that will roll out throughout the week. But Braden, we got a trade. What is the deal that we've seen go down today?
The New York Islanders are making a deal with the New York Rangers, which it's always fun to see these rival teams trade. It's so funny when you hear people talk about trades. I feel like so often they're like, this team might be a good fit. Oh, the rivals, they won't do that. They won't do that. Like, anytime somebody's like, oh man, the Devin Cooley's playing great in Calgary, Edmonton sure could use a goalie. Oh, they'll never do that. They won't trade with each other. They trade all the time. Like, these GMs, they don't see it like the same way. Like, a lot of these
two
rivals on the ice.
To a certain extent. Because I have a question for you. We're talking about teams in the same division making deals. Sorry, I was doing the timestamps. Did you already say what the trade was?
I did not. I went off.
Okay. So before you get into that, across the history of these two teams and their franchises, how many deals do you think have been made between these two teams?
Interesting. I mean,
between the Islanders and the Rangers, obviously.
Rangers been around forever. The Islanders came in. Were they part of the 67 expansion?
No.
Maybe one of the later expansions?
Yeah, they were after that.
So let's say they've been around 55, 60 years-ish. You're not making a deal with another team a year. You're not even doing half of that. Let's say 17.
This is the fourth trade.
Fourth? Okay.
This is the fourth. So before today, these teams have only ever made a deal 3 times before.
Interesting. Okay. Wow.
I think and again, they're not really rivals right now, because in order to have an official rivalry, both teams have to be good.
Yeah.
But a rivalry that started for a bit, in the short amount of time that Vegas has been in the league, I'm pretty confident that San Jose and Vegas have made more trades. So what's that, in the last 9 years?
Probably.
than these two teams. But I'll let you actually put out what the trade is here.
Yeah, the New York Islanders traded a 2026 third-round pick to the Rangers in exchange for defenseman Carson Soucy. This is the last year of his contract, so he's a UFA, making $3.25 million this season. The Islanders looking good this year, and they're just buying a little extra on the blue line.
And I think they needed to, given
assets.
Some of the injuries, especially with Alex Romanov out for the year. They kind of need a little bit of insurance on the blue line. They've been kind of rotating. It's been a revolving door of just a bunch of young guys. And while there's been moments where they've looked good, I think they really needed someone to solidify that spot on that third pair. And I think Carson Soucy definitely does that. Nice hockey DB trying to download stuff for me. I just want to see the trade. He's from Viking, Alberta. Carson Soucy. I did not know that. So he was traded last season, March 6th, so right around the trade deadline, for a third-round pick. So the Rangers traded a third for him, got
some games played,
62 games out of him or whatever, and flipped him for a third. So it's not
easy enough.
Awful business by the Rangers, and it's the start a little bit of the Rangers selling off some pieces, even though he was on the last year of his deal. So it makes sense to trade him if you're not going to bring him back next year. And why would you?
Not exactly competitive at the moment, so you don't worry about holding on to him. Yeah, makes all the sense in the world for both teams, really.
How crazy is it that the two teams that had the first and second overall pick are kind of the first two teams kind of going out and being buyers here? Obviously not counting the Quinn Hughes, because that's a totally different thing. That's teams at the bottom were even trying to trade for him, because that's a franchise altering move. But in terms of going out and getting kind of the pieces that you need and kind of more depth pieces,
the Sharks and the Islanders they're already going out there and buying before everyone else seems to even realize that
getting ahead of it.
It's trade season, so it's
I
good
don't really.
For them.
Yeah, and again, this is a fine deal for both teams, but I'm not really focusing as much on this deal, more so kind of looking at how this sets the market for defensemen.
Right.
Kind of a third pairing defenseman on the last year of their contract, around $3 million. That's a third round pick.
Yeah.
So, player we talked about before, both on the podcast and just in our own group chats, whatnot. Zach Whitecloud. The Flames are unsure what they want to do with him. He's and he's better than Carson Soucy. A high-end third pairing defenseman, but a low-end second pairing defenseman. He kind of do both, but again, what's he making? 2.8. He's got 2 years left after this. If Calgary does decide to flip him, what's the value of that look like now?
Yeah,
could be pretty
Zach
good.
Whitecloud, 2 3/4, 2.75, and he's coming in with a bit of term. He's there for another 3 years, so yeah, I'd say he's worth more. How much more is kind of up in the air. I said before that I think if he's retained on, he could maybe get a first back.
Flames wouldn't retain though at this point now, knowing what we know.
No, not at this point. So a second for him at his full cap hit, maybe.
I think you're probably looking at a second and a low-level prospect, or maybe a second and a fourth or something, honestly. Because, again, you are getting a solid defenseman that isn't going to be a healthy scratch for you, and he's making pretty cheap money with the cap going up, and it's got term. Like that, it could be.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where he's not incredible, but he's right-handed, plays on the right side, which is always a plus. And just having that term locked in for 3 years is so good for teams to just be able to plan and know exactly how much it's going to cost for how long, and they can plan around that and not have to worry about re-signing him at the end of the year or anything.
Yeah, it makes you wonder when we talk about Dallas and needing a right-handed defenseman. Because again, I don't know how many there are out there that are
Calgary does
going to
love
be available, and
trading with Dallas.
they do like making deals with Dallas. So it's something to look at. Yeah, you want that third pairing defenseman on the last year of the deal. It's going to cost you a third, and then you kind of work around that. I think
Does
that
Dallas
it sets the tone.
Does Dallas have any like high-ish level prospects?
I'm pretty high on Emil Hemming.
Do you think that's a guy that Calgary might want to target if there was,
Well, it's got to be more than White Cloud.
Well, what about a guy who's been rumored to be going to Dallas for quite some time at this point in Blake Coleman? Assuming they'll retain on Blake Coleman, send Zach Whitecloud there as well. That's two real nice additions for
it's definitely a good package for Dallas, absolutely. And I think that's something Dallas should be targeting over a Evander Kane. In my opinion.
Yeah, just makes more
Dallas
sense.
will be a team to keep an eye on. Again, Colorado doesn't have to make too many moves. Minnesota already went out and got Quinn Hughes, and they're looking to add to their top six. So there's going to be some pressure on Dallas as one of the teams to really make a move. I think we've kind of seen Vegas's big move. They don't really have much now to give up. So, but again, they were proactive. They got out there before some other teams made a move, and they can rack up a few wins before Edmonton makes a move, before Anaheim, LA, all those teams. That could be good for them.
I think people are starting to underrate Vegas a little bit. I think most people are just seeing them as another team that's getting into the playoffs this year. I do think they are still cup contenders. I don't necessarily think they're one of the most likely to win it, but I think they're definitely still a threat, especially with the fact that they're most likely playing a weak Pacific team or two in the first round. Good chance they'll be facing Edmonton in the second round.
And that's the thing. That's where people are low on Vegas, because and again, they've only played once in the last 5 seasons or whatever in the playoffs or whatever it is. But people are just very quick to be like, well, Vegas can't get past Edmonton.
Yeah.
And then it's also like Edmonton did beat Vegas last year. Vegas did look bad.
I would say pretty handily.
But in my opinion, Edmonton's a worse team this year overall.
Yeah.
Like McDavid's playing out of his mind. Draisaitl is doing fine. Bouchard's looking great. Matthias Ekholm just had a hat trick tonight.
But their depth is much worse. Hat trick.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Edmonton's actually the first team. Edmonton's the first team in history to have hat tricks from defensemen in back-to-back games. 2 different defensemen. Because obviously Bouchard the other night and now Ekholm tonight. So again, things are flying very well for Edmonton from their top guys. But Vegas is still a very good team, and now they have Mitch Marner and Rasmus Andersson, who they didn't have last year.
That's some pretty big additions. Like, obviously, losing Pietrangelo sucks, but I think you've more than made up for it between those 2 players. So
you also didn't really have a healthy Pietrangelo in the playoffs last year either.
Exactly. So I definitely think this team is a bit stronger than people think, especially since if they do get by Edmonton, I'm assuming that the first round probably wasn't too much of an issue for them. And on top of that, now you're facing whoever gets out of the Central in the third round, which is going to be a good team, but they're going to be tired because it's going to be an absolute war in the first 2 rounds.
But I think that's going to happen for Vegas either way still, though. Because you kind of look at it, and the most likely, because again, assuming, say Vegas finishes top of the Pacific, right? They're most likely, and again, I'm not saying they're going to, but potentially you're going to be playing a Anaheim. That's going to be a feisty young team back in the playoffs. Same with San Jose, or you're getting Utah, their first goal in the playoffs. Like whatever team you're going to get they're going to be throwing it all out there because they've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
So I think that it could be a very physical series from any one of those 3 teams potentially. And then you would have to go up against Edmonton. I think a Vegas San Jose series is going to be more physical than a Colorado Dallas.
No, I don't think
I
so.
think in terms of the physicality and the hitting, I think there's a potential for that. The series might be a lot longer for a Colorado and Dallas because that's probably going to go 7 and then 7 against Minnesota, whereas Vegas probably wins in like 5 over San Jose or Anaheim. But it's going to put a lot on them in terms of the physicality they're going to have to endure to win those games. And then Edmonton's obviously no pushover.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I don't like Edmonton's physicality as much this year. They lost some key pieces that
they've lost a lot of their
were kind of the engine of their physicality.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens once these playoffs start because there's so many good teams. And then I've got this inkling that we're going to get this really weird matchup of teams that somehow skirted around these war zones. I feel like we might end up with a Carolina Vegas final, and they just like ended up facing not weak teams, but like out of the teams that get in the playoffs, the weaker teams. There's going to be the Panthers and the Lightning and all these teams in the Atlantic and battling it out. And the Red Wings are back. All of them are going to be battling, and they're gonna face the Islanders in round 1, and the Isles will put up a good fight, but I probably still have that going 5 games. And then, second round, they'll get whoever else squeaks in there, and then they face a depleted squad. Like, I could see it being, there's only really one good team in the, like, real cup threat in the Metro and 2 in the Pacific. And I feel like we're going to see some of those potentially get to the final instead of all these great teams from the Atlantic and the Central.
Maybe, but again, you think about Carolina's having a great season. There's a very good chance playoffs roll around. Oh, we're playing wild card team. It's Florida.
I'd love to see that in the first round.
And then Florida beats Carolina. It's like, yeah, then you're probably going to make the Eastern Conference final, and then you go up against whoever there. I think there's going to be a lot of teams starting to make some moves because again, I do believe a lot of teams are starting to make moves based on what's up ahead for us.
Yeah.
What's especially when you look at Vegas. You bring in guys like Colton Sissons and Lozon. Guys that can bring that physicality because again, Vegas kind of got dominated on that physical side. Any team would bring in Marner, like if given the chance. So that's just that. And then Anderson, because again, the right side of your blue line wasn't very good without Pietrangelo, right? And you look at Edmonton, and Edmonton's strong point at times was their blue line, whether it was Bouchard, Ekholm, Nurse when he had his huge moments every now and then, Jake Wallman, who was really good, Brett Kulak, who I wish they kept around, right? So it'll be interesting to see what some of these teams do here, and how long do they wait, and because by tomorrow maybe there's a defense on the last year of his contract, and maybe a team is desperate and pays a second for him, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now the value is set at a second potentially.
Yeah. Or maybe everyone doesn't believe in that new price, but maybe they picked up the guy you wanted. Like maybe somebody tomorrow overpays for Artemi Panarin, and no skin off the nose of the teams that didn't overpay for him. But at the same time, if you're a team that was kind of wanting to buy on him, but you were waiting until after the Olympic break, you're out of luck. You can't have this player, and there's no other Artemi Panarins available at this deadline.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not the biggest Panarin fan. Still a good player, but yeah, outside of him, I mean, there's not many other big fish for the deadline, especially with Rasmus Anderson already being moved in. It's kind of Panarin's out there. Pettersson, I guess. We don't know for sure that he's moving. Like we know that Panarin is getting moved. It's just a matter of Whereas you look at guys like Vincent Trocheck, Elise Patterson, it's like they might get moved, but
even Kadri
might not. Yeah,
might get moved, but we've heard of teams that are interested. We haven't really heard how interested the Flames are on moving them.
Yeah. So that's still kind of something we're just gonna have to wait and see with all that. I assume there'll probably be maybe a couple more moves made before the Olympics, and then there's only a little bit of time afterwards before the deadline. So
yeah, Canadians need to buy on Kadri already. They're running out of time. They're already back into a wild card spot because the Sabres keep winning.
Yeah. But I think that's all kind of the little bits of news that we got here around the league and all that. So we can start to move on into our closing segments. We got the weekly mock trade here. I realized that you did last week.
Oh,
and I thought, I don't know why I thought I did last week. So you get to go twice here because you have a mock trade prepared. I don't have one, so it is back to you for the weekly mock trade here.
All right. Well, I did my best to try and keep the Minnesota Wild out of one of my mock trades, being in one of them again, and I just couldn't do it. They not only did they need to buy, but they've got stuff to sell.
That they do.
And yeah, with that, this trade is going to be between the Minnesota Wild and the Edmonton Oilers. And this is going to be the Oilers receiving Jesper Wallstedt at 25% retained. Obviously, they still aren't getting the goaltending they're looking for. I believe Wallstedt 25% retained would be around the cap hit that Calvin Pickard is, who I have as being the other goalie in this trade going back to Minnesota. And then I have the Wild also receiving an Edmonton Oilers first-round pick in 27 and a third-round pick this year. So they're just picking up some assets for a goalie that they've been rumored to be shopping. And then the Wild will be flipping these assets for a centerman. I don't know which centerman necessarily, but I think they would take these picks and shove them right out the door to try and get some center depth.
So it's one of those deals where, like, if I'm Edmonton, I'm hammering yes, but if I'm Minnesota, I'm saying no.
No.
Just because, again, I really don't. When you look at it, that you're basically just doing Edmonton a favor for the sake of doing them a favor. I don't think Minnesota's really benefiting from Edmonton's first round pick, which is presumed to be a late first, because it wouldn't be this year, it would be next year's.
It would be next year's. Yeah.
So it's probably going to be a late first. So that's not as enticing to a team as opposed to, do you want Jesper Wallstedt, right? And then on top of that, you're retaining, like when you're because again, Wallstedt's been rumored to be out there. Like if I'm Minnesota, I'm looking at a St. Louis and being like, is there a way we can get Robert Thomas in a package we send you revolves around a Jesper Wallstedt? Or, I mean, they've been rumored of Vincent Trocheck, but Wallstedt to the Rangers doesn't make sense. You look at...
Originally, I had this trade happening between them and the Ottawa Senators because the Senators need goaltending, but
the Senators also gave Minnesota Gustafsson back in the day, did they not? So there's some history there of those teams, trading future.
The reason I ended up going with the Oilers is just because they've got all this money locked up in Linus Ullmark, and basically the reason that they're moving Wallstedt out is because they're saying, okay, we need to allocate those assets somewhere else. Gustafsson's our guy. And then that would just be the exact situation that Ottawa would end up in, as we have Linus Ullmark and we have Wallstedt. Plus, the return they'd want a guy like a Dylan Cousins or something from the Senators. Mm-hmm. And they might be willing to give him up. Maybe. But also now you've got these two goalies, and then it's also not a total fit. Like, it's a decent return, but it's not quite the number one center they're looking for in Minnesota either. So
yeah, because I mean, but again, I don't think you get that number one center using Edmonton's first.
I
think
was gonna
Jesper
throw
Wallstedt
Matthew
holds.
Savoie in there, but
I would say
obviously
Matthew
he's not that guy
Savard
now.
or Isaac Howard, I think, would have to be involved. And even then, I'm still not entirely sure that gets you there. Because again, I think if you're Minnesota, if you are moving on from Jesper Wallstedt already, and it makes sense if they do, I totally understand it. It should be in a deal.
The reason I came up with this is that has been rumored.
Line center, yeah. And I think, again, I go back to I'd rather use that and give up, whatever else they have, and be it surrounding Jesper Wallstedt to try and get a Robert Thomas from St. Louis that is kind of going through a retool. Bennington's on the last year of his deal. He might be moved by the deadline, and Jesper Wallstedt's kind of your goalie you're building around going forward. Again, for Edmonton, absolutely would do that all day and not even think twice. But if I'm Minnesota, I don't think I would go that route.
Do you think that's something that could get done with St. Louis? A deal centering around the Robert Thomas and Wallstedt?
Potentially. Yes,
is there a world where Binnington goes back the other way?
Maybe so. So hear this out.
Would the Wild hate that?
Jesper Wallstedt. Okay, actually, first, Robert Thomas, Jordan Binnington, 50% retained.
Right.
To Minnesota for Jesper Wallstedt, David Jiricek.
I was waiting for it.
Because Adam Jiricek's on St. Louis, so they've had
they have Adam
getting some brothers together. So, and again, I don't know what David Jiricek's value is necessarily at anymore. Because again, I'm still high on him, but at the same time, it's like you're a 5th overall pick now, like 5 years ago, and you haven't done shit. So probably not super high. Yeah. But the team that would value him the most would be St. Louis.
Yeah.
And then then you get Binnington 50% retained. He's your backup behind Jesper Philip Gustafsson. Can be a great backup.
Gustafsson's your guy, but need be, we've got a cup-winning goalie who, in those big games, we know can show up.
He's already coming off of 4 Nations win. He's going to be coming off a gold medal win at the Olympics. And then you get Robert Thomas, and that's your first line center now for the next. Your Quinn Hughes era that you're going to be in. Hopefully they get him extended. Maybe I think that I would do that over, helping Edmonton out just for the sake of kind of helping Edmonton out type of thing. Again, Edmonton should be on Jesper Wallstedt, but they don't really have anything to give up that I think is enticing enough for.
Yeah, that's where I was struggling with it, and that's why I ended up just being a bunch of picks, and then it's like they would parlay that to another team to get the center. That could be really interesting, though. I
guess
Robert Thomas is one of the only number one centers that you could go for, because that's what they need right now. Not just center depth; they need a guy, and even Kadri is he could kind of be that, but you'd much rather him be the second line center. Robert Thomas is that's a 90-point guy. That's somebody who could be on the first line on a cup-winning team. And
you're not even super far off from a 3-team trade. Jesper Wallstedt.
I did also have a 3-team trade.
Edmonton,
cooking.
Those picks and prospects that you mentioned, those go to St. Louis and probably say Calvin Pickard, and then Minnesota sending Jiricek to St. Louis, and then St. Louis is sending Thomas and Binnington, because in that way St. Louis gets much worse this season to get a high pick. You stock up on picks and prospects. If you're getting a first, a second, Isaac Howard and David Jiricek, that's a pretty good return. Edmonton gets their goalie. Minnesota gets their first line center.
That's interesting. That could definitely be cool.
Everybody's happy. I assume everybody would be happy.
That'll be something to look out for, I guess.
Kind of want to see that because it works for all 3.
Yeah. My very original mock trade when I came up with it was between the Minnesota Wild, the Ottawa Senators, and the Nashville Predators. And it had Ryan O'Reilly going to the Wild. It had Wallstedt going to the Sens. And that's kind of where I was struggling. I was like, what do the Sens really have to send out
Because they don't got their own first
to make it work? So I was trying to make it work, but it was something was there, but it wasn't quite lining up. So, but that, 3 teams over there with the Oilers, the Wild, and the Blues, or even just the Wild and the Blues, that could be really fun.
And like we talked about, teams in the same division, it's not all the time, but they're not afraid to pull off some big moves between each other. And
they should try.
I don't
and make
think
a
Robert
deal like
Thomas
that.
would be opposed to going to Minnesota.
Not with the
like
squad
any
together.
player. Like if you're, and again, I'm sure you love St. Louis, but if you're on a Blues team that's sinking and you look at what's going on in Minnesota, why would you not go there?
Last year he wouldn't have gone there. Now it's like, oh, like they're starting to build.
You actively want to go there almost at this point.
When was I would say when was the last time? It's never. The answer is never. We've never seen Minnesota be a destination like this.
Which is so weird because, there's always that thing. People be like, oh, if you were, an NHL player, like what teams would you want to go? Minnesota is always up there for me. Like Minnesota is always a place I'm like, it's just would be fucking great to go there.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where they have more taxes. It's cold there versus you could just live in Florida, California, Texas, Las Vegas.
What do you do for vacations then? You're going on vacation. Where are you going? Oh, I already live in LA, so I'm just going to fucking get an Airbnb on the other side of the city and relax. Like, you got to be somewhere cold and miserable at times, so those vacations are even better. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
There's something to it. But do you think Binnington gets moved after the Olympics?
I think if you're St. Louis, why not? I mean, what good does it do? That's really the only way he
boosts his trade value, right?
You shake his hand and you say, "Thanks for winning us a cup. Thanks for everything you've done. Where would you like to go? But it's time we part ways because we're moving in a different direction, and I'm sure you don't want to be on a losing team and getting chirped all the time for sucking on a losing team. Because again, I think Binnington could have better numbers this year on a even half decent team. Yeah, because it's just not going the right way for the Blues. So it makes no sense to re-sign him at this point now.
Well, especially since Joel Hofer has actually looked pretty dang good as a backup in St. Louis
when he's not hiding.
Yeah, when he's not hiding.
When he's not hiding and scared to go out there.
One of the funniest all-time NHL clips, like. The fact that he's not only hiding, but he's actively peeking around the corner like that is so funny. Like
he knows what he's doing.
Oh, absolutely. There's TVs back there where he could watch the feed and know what's going on. He wanted to do his funny little peek. Like that's good stuff.
Yeah, so I think he's definitely a bright spot for St. Louis. So yeah, I mean it's and again that's why I'm thinking like Edmonton. I would have liked to see them go the route of Binnington over Jarry, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not too late to potentially do that.
Might not be. Well, Jarry would have to go the other way at that point, I would assume.
Okay. Yeah, and actually for St. Louis, I don't know if that doesn't make a lot of sense for them. Unless they're like Edmonton's an overpaying, because it's now like.
Well, I was going to say,
again, that's
just overpay.
One of the things we talked about with the deal that with Edmonton, it's Jarry's kind of the one guy where you might have to be paying a few months later to get rid of him if it doesn't work. But there's still lots of time, lots of potential deals that could be made. Hopefully, maybe we see a 3-team trade, maybe a 4-team trade. We've talked about it before. Maybe we'll get lucky.
If the Blues take back Jarry's contract, and are giving, I'm trying to think of this in the context of the 3-team deal. Wallstedt goes to. Would he be going to the Blues?
Well, in mine, he was going to. If they were doing a 3-team trade, my original one was he was going to Edmonton, and then the picks and prospects was going to St. Louis.
Right.
And then Binnington and Thomas would go to Minnesota, and then Juracek would go from Minnesota to St. Louis.
What if they're also sending, because they've been looking for somebody who can score alongside of Draisaitl and McDavid for a long time. What if they move out Binnington, Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou in one trade.
Ugh. I don't know if Edmonton has enough to give up for that then. If you're acquiring Jordan Kyrou and Jesper Wallstedt.
And they're taking back Tristan Jarry, like it would.
Yeah, I don't know if Edmonton has
I guess in
enough
that
for
case,
I really don't.
in that case, they might not need to. If they're not getting Binnington's cap hit, then they might be able to do.
I think numbers wise,
Wallstedt tandem
could yeah.
But like,
yeah, I don't know if Edmonton would have enough for a Wallstedt and Kyrou.
Blues would be getting Juracek. They'd be getting some goalie, probably like a Pickard or something, from Edmonton. Probably Matthew Savoy. Like maybe, I mean, it's Jordan Kyrou. It's 2 firsts. Edmonton's first in 27, 28. Maybe they get Isaac Howard as well. I mean, he was supposed to be the guy scoring with Draisaitl. If you're getting Kyrou, then you don't need him really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it could be a deal where all teams just kind of all benefit
just
very greatly from
a huge power shift.
Yeah.
The Oilers have the Blues 3rd round pick in 2028. Maybe they'll get that back in case they want to offer sheet somebody down the road.
Yeah.
That would be a huge deal, but
yeah,
it would be really fun to see pull off.
But we can move on into our final segment here for those who have been around here for a while. We like to wrap things up with a fun game. We're bringing back one that I quite enjoy putting together, and I quite like to see you go through every possibility in your head. And that is Player Blender. For those who aren't familiar with Player Blender, 2 players. I've got a little bio for each of them, and it's up to Brain and you to figure out which 2 players it are. And when you figure it out, you'll know it because their names blend together as one.
All right.
Pretty simple. We'll dive right in here. You ready for the first player?
I am ready.
And there always is a hint available if you need it. But you do lose cool guy points, so
yeah, I lose a little aura.
Up to you.
It's pretty important.
All right, the first player. I'm a Stanley Cup winner who has played for 6 teams across my career. I'm currently on my 2nd stint with my current team after they brought me back at the trade deadline last year. The team that I've won my only cup with is the team I'm currently on, but it was during my first run here. I've been traded 6 times in my career, none bigger than when I was a sacrifice, so my team at the time could offload a future Conn Smythe winner. That is player number 1.
And you said they're on their 2nd stint with the team they won with the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So they won a cup there, left, and now they're back.
All right.
Essentially. Ready for player number 2?
I'm ready.
Player number 2. I'm a veteran in this league where despite my elite level of play, I have often been overlooked at certain points throughout my career. I'm a Stanley Cup winner and have won 3 different individual awards on top of that, one of which being the hardest individual award you can win. I'm currently on my 5th team and would not be shocked to find myself on a 6th team sometime in the near future.
I think the second player is who I think the second player is who I thought it might be on the first one. And he's back in the second tour. I think
you can talk it through with me.
So on the first one, I was trying to think who gets moved around when winning a cup. And not a ton of teams won the cup in the past 10 years, right? We've got a couple of repeats. So there's a lot of standout guys. And one of the ones I was thinking was, originally I was thinking Luke Schenn potentially, because I know he got moved around a lot. Not sure where he was when the Blues won. But I was thinking of Ryan O'Reilly because he obviously won the Conn Smythe, but then he got traded. Or rather, he got traded to the Blues and then won the Conn Smythe with them. But then you said he's currently with the team that he won with. He's obviously the Preds haven't won a cup, so that's not true. But he has won a Conn Smythe, and he is. I didn't know if he had been with them, the Preds before, but I think the second player is O'Reilly.
You think player number 2, okay, so you think player 2 is Ryan O'Reilly?
Because that's the one that you said has won the hardest
individual award you can win.
Which I'm assuming is the Conn Smythe.
Okay.
It could be that or the Hart, but I'm going to assume it's the Conn Smythe because you also have to make the playoffs. You said they've also won other awards, which I know he's won the Selke. And he's moved around a lot. And another player who I know is, I'm pretty sure at least he's currently with his second stint with a team that has won a cup. So I think the answer would be Ryan O'Reilly Smith. Riley.
So you're going with player 1 being Riley Smith.
Yes.
So you're going with Ryan O'Reilly Smith.
Yeah.
Final answer, locking it in?
Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah.
No, you would be correct. It is Ryan O'Reilly Smith.
Okay.
Well done.
It confused me a little because the second player was the first one in the order, and I had to try and do the math in my head.
That's why I flipped them there to try and trick you a little bit, make it a little bit tougher. You absolutely got it there.
The first one had just enough pieces that made it so Ryan O'Reilly was like fresh in my head, and then once I was already thinking about him, everything you said in the second one,
everything in the
lined
second
up with
one,
him.
Yeah.
And so once I had him, it's like Ryan O'Reilly, and once I thought of Riley, especially since Riley Smith had been in Nashville for a bit, I was like, that's got to be him. I wasn't sure if he was still on the Rangers, but he's back on the.
He is back on the Golden Knights, looking to win another cup there. No, you absolutely smashed that one.
That was
all
good.
Of you at home as well. You can let us know how you did on it. But I mean, that is the end of the episode here. Again, not a lot going on around the league. I'm sure we will have obviously lots to talk about more on Friday. Anything we may have missed or didn't discuss, you can always let us know through any of the socials or over on YouTube, anywhere there. And because again, we're always kind of looking for different things to talk about, not necessarily just what's the latest around the league, right? Just all the news and stuff, a lot of other people cover. So anything and everything you want us to discuss, you can let us know. But Braden, it is that time. The end of the episode, as always, we're asking you final thoughts.
Final thoughts. We're starting to get more people commenting on some of our YouTube videos and all of that, and on the socials, and it is really fun. In particular, especially with the time of year, talking to people about potential trades, mock trades. Like, we're at the end of the day, we're just fans of hockey, right? We're just guys who freaking love talking about dudes. We could just sit here and name third line grinders for hours. And so talking about all these different potential trades and stuff is just a great time. So if you have any trade, even if it's not a guy who's been rumored to get moved, even if it sounds like low-key insane, hit us up on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on Instagram, in the comments on YouTube, wherever, and let us know it, and just be like, hey, what do you think of this trade? And maybe we'll talk about it next episode, because I love when people think of these trades and there's like reasons why the teams would do it, and it makes sense. And it's two guys getting swapped that nobody has on their radar to get moved. Like, some of those trades are some of the most fun to talk about. So if anybody's listening and has some mock trades you've been thinking about, hit us up. Maybe we'll feature you on the next episode.
Yeah, I'm always down to talk trades, or even if it's a YouTube only thing, like we've kind of done for a couple certain things, and just talking trades there or whatever. Yeah. Be sure to let us know. But that is it for this episode. One final time, hope you all enjoyed. And as always, we will see all of you lovely people out on the ice later this week.